everybody. Welcome to the Hello Road podcast. I'm Ethan.
I'm Paul.
And today we'll be talking about getting ready for the Radwood 80s and 90s car show that's going on in Southern California this weekend. Got a lot of stuff we're trying to do to get ready for the show that's just in a couple days. Apparently you had a little debacle with your charade hood, the Daihatsu hood.
Yes.
Okay.
Slight debacle.
Okay, we'll get into that.
Yep.
I've got some news about my Pontiac Turbo Grand Prix, my stupid, rare, broken Pontiac. And Mr. Bradley Brownell, co-founder of Radwood, just dropped off the Porsche 944 Turbo today. So I've got that in my driveway.
It's home.
Yes, it is. And the LA Auto Show just happened. So
yes.
we got a lot of things we could probably talk about in this episode.
We do.
So maybe we should kick it off with the auto show stuff and then jump into Radwood. So
sure.
So you went to the show. I did not, but I would still be happy to offer my stupid opinions on everything. But I did not go to the show. So why don't you tell me what you thought were some of the highlights there and the lowlights? I'd like to hear both.
Okay, perfect. So I went the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. So it was really nice because it was pretty empty. I typically like to go to the show like right when it opens. So it's, easy to take pictures and to sit in cars and stuff. So I went with my dad, who's, just kind of as big of a car junkie as I am. So we got to go around and look at all the different things. First thing we did was we headed over to the Chevrolet booth because he was really hot to trot to see the new C8 Corvette, as was I. I wanted to see it in person. They had two of them there. You couldn't touch them or get in them or anything, but they looked pretty good in person. I mean, it's the internet's just been so flooded with the pictures of these cars that you kind of know what you're going to be seeing. But the size of it in person is pretty much as expected. It's just about the same size as the C7. It's just a little off-putting in person, seeing how short the frunk thing is versus how it was on like the C7 and all the other previous Corvettes. But it was pretty nice. Chevrolet had a convertible one up in the very front, and in the back they had one of the coupes. And it looked good. I don't know. They chose silver for the actual coupe model, which I don't know, that silver kind of didn't do the car justice. It should have been like red or yellow, but that's just my dumb opinion about the car because it kind of just blended itself into like the background of the turnstile thing it was on. So I don't know. But
seems like it could have been a little bit more bold.
They could have done that. The thing that was really kind of off-putting with that whole booth was the lack of cars. So back in the very back where they had the C8 Corvette in this huge display, but shoved like right next to it was like the three cars that Chevrolet offers. So I saw the
Malibu,
the Malibu, the Sonic, and the Spark, and they kind of like had them put in like the timeout corner and like there's our three cars because I don't think they have the Impala anymore. I could be wrong, but I didn't see one there.
That's good because I just rented a vehicle for my couple weeks in Massachusetts, and they gave me an Impala. Out of all the cars that my wife has sat in, that from getting manufacturers' vehicles and all the stuff that I rent and stuff, she said, this was by far the worst car that she's been in a while. So anyway, maybe not unexpected, but
right.
Anyway. Just wanted to throw my wife's hate for the Impala in there. So continue.
Yeah. So, I mean, other than those three cars shoved in the timeout corner, it was all trucks and SUVs. The thing that was the silliest thing, but of all of if I was forced to choose a new Chevrolet SUV or CUV to purchase,
if you're forced to choose one,
if I'm forced to choose one, they brought back the Trailblazer nameplate.
Yes.
But it's a tiny little thing. It's probably the size of like, I don't know, a Matchbox car. It's tiny. It's not very big. It's very similar size to the Nissan Kicks. But it was there. It got debuted to very, I guess it was kind of an underhanded thing, like, oh yeah, and here's the Trailblazer.
Sure.
But I was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that was coming, but so that was kind of cool, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I kind of liked it the way it looked. It looked nice, but it was still like, I I don't know.
I mean, it's just kind of more of the same that, everybody's
because I think
with.
I think a Buick version of it's coming out too, called something. I don't know. I don't know much about it other than the nameplate's back, but I think it's probably based off of something from I don't know, some platform shared thing from maybe Korea or something that like they do with like the Sonic. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be the Sonic's replacement if they replace it.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, it looks fine. It's probably decent.
Yeah.
I wonder how much this thing is going for. Under $20,000, they say.
Yeah, see, so that gives you kind of an idea of what they're aiming for on that thing. So so I mean, that was there. That was cool, I guess. My dad just, he likes to look at all the trucks because he's a truck guy. I mean, and he just sits there like dumbfounded at the prices of them, and I'm like, oh yeah, like there's $73,000 for this, like, Silverado 2500 HD. So
yes.
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting. But then I think it was next to the Chevrolet booth, like you get into the BMWs and the Mini Coopers. So that was really interesting kind of seeing that, because BMW always has a decent booth at the show. And this was, I think, one of the very first times that I had seen one of the new grills for the 7 Series up close. And I tried to have my dad take a picture with my phone of my hand like on the grill, because like just one side of the kidney grill is, 4 times the size of my hand, but picture didn't come out because my dad took it. So technology. So, but yeah, I think in there they had a couple things that I took away with, like, these are pretty nice cars. Like I would, I owned that BMW at one point, and I was like, if I was to do this again, in 15 years when these cars are like, $4,000 maybe.
Yeah.
But like they had an M5 there, and that car just, I know everybody kind of poo-poos the M5, that it's like too heavy and it's not as performance oriented as it used to be, but it's probably just enough with, I think it has like 600 horsepower. I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't need it more than that. So, so there was that. The other things, the takeaways, I don't want to go through every single thing, but I'm thinking about the stuff in that hall. The mini booth was actually pretty sad this year. They only had a few models sitting in there. They had a big emphasis on the electric minis that are coming out. So that was interesting to see. They were sitting there. But then they also had the new John Cooper Works GP. So what the GP is, since the reintroduction of the minis back in 2001, and then we got them in 2002. When that generation ended in 2006, they came out with like the last hurrah, and they called it the John Cooper Works GP, and it had more horsepower, no rear seats, I don't want to say silly, but it was kind of a silly rear wing, not like Type R silly rear wing. But so they've done that at the end of each generation. So the R50, R53 generation, the R56 generation had one, and then now, as shit, I don't even know if it's called I think it's called the F56 generation is ending for the minis. So they come up with a new GP. And the interesting thing about it is they needed to make something that was comparable to like the Civic Type R, like a 300 horsepower front wheel drive type thing. So they've done that, but not leaving well enough alone. I mean, you've got to look up this car. They have a very interesting, I guess you can call it a design exercise with the aerodynamics on it. So like the side little plastic arches, like that all minis kind of have, they've extended them out, and it's very interesting. I guess it would look cool if I looked at it a little bit longer, but it's it's pretty interesting look for a street car. So that car was there. It was cool. There was really not a lot of people around it, which was kind of sad. I just remember the mini booth used to be teeming with people. The thing that I don't like about the car is that they're making it, and I know, but they're making it automatic only. And
that's not surprising.
Yeah, well, I don't want to call it an automatic. It's a direct clutch transmission, but it's just like, of all car companies, Mini should keep them manual, but whatever, I'm sure the people that are going to buy them that can afford to buy one, because I think the thing's going to be something like $55,000 or something.
Sure.
Yeah, they're going to want to just get the automatic. It's not going to be the whippersnappers like me that would love to get one. Yep. So that was interesting seeing that car, and it's all of its GP-ness. Other things that really kind of took me away that were there. Mercedes had a interesting, like, I don't even know what the hell you'd call this thing. It was like resto mod's not the right word. It looked like one of their, cars from like I don't know, probably the 1910s or something like that they had done up as a hot rod. It was so cool looking. I mean, it's obviously not anything headed for production, but it was like such a cool looking concept thing that was sitting there on their booth with the rest of their cars. So, but yeah, as usual, during the public days for the peons like me, they have almost all of their cars locked, so you can't sit in an S-Class. So I was like, that's kind of BS, because like BMW let us sit in the 7 Series like it was nothing. So
yeah, exactly. It's like they're trying to sort of show that they're a little bit more exclusive.
Yes.
No, you can't. You're not cool enough.
Yes.
You're not high class enough to sit in the
Here,
S-Class.
you can sit in the A class.
But just wait a year when it loses $60,000 of depreciation. Then you can sit in it.
Then I can sit in it all I want. Exactly. Yeah. And then what else was in there? Oh, yes. The Audi was in there as well. And the beautiful RS6 Avant was, that was actually, that was one of the first cars we saw going in there. And man, in person, that thing is an absolute the presence of it is amazing. The thing about it, one of the first things that you'll notice, like seeing it in person, is the size of the brake rotors on the front is like, I think they're 15 or 16 inches in diameter. They're humongous. It's like something you'd see on a hypercar. But really, really cool. So that's one of those cars that, we're all happy is going to be coming over here, but not a lot of people I think are going to buy them, just because that's an expensive buy-in for it. But like you said, with a Mercedes, wait 5 or 6 years and
well, I don't know. Even with the RS series, those tend to. I mean, I definitely lose some value, but not as much as an S-Class. It's a cult following car, so they'll sell 6 of them, and all 6 will probably hold somewhat of a value.
That's true. So yeah, that was like the big takeaways from that haul. The next haul, the thing that really I was looking forward to was seeing the Hyundai. See, I said it right. I don't say Hyundai anymore after I've been corrected.
Yeah, don't say that. The listeners are going to get pissed at you if you keep saying it like that.
I'm not listening. He keeps saying Hyundai. So, but the Hyundai booth, getting to see the Veloster N, which I was excited to see after it won the the Motor Trend Performance Car of the Year award over all those other cars. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a nice little car. I didn't get to drive it, but I got to sit in it and just kind of tool around with it. And it seems like they've done a bit of work on just kind of maybe tightening everything up a little bit inside the car, because I remember sitting in that second generation Veloster last year, 2 years ago, and it just kind of felt very Ford-esque, kind of cheap. But in the end, it was actually, I was like, okay, it's put together pretty solidly, but very comfortable, very cool. I really like that car. I'd love to get a chance to drive one of them, because I think it would be an absolute
definitely
hoot.
And it doesn't look as stupid as the Civic Type R.
Right. It doesn't have the wing or the Mini Cooper GP's design exercise.
Yes,
aerodynamics design exercise.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool to see. And then the thing that I liked about the Hyundai booth was, in comparison to other people's booth, is they had a huge emphasis on just showing their cars, which was really nice to see, because everybody else was like SUV, CUV, and it was, did they have the new Sonata there? The new Sonata, was it the Sonata? I think that was there. The Elantra, all those other ones, they were all sitting out there, and it was really kind of refreshing to see that. So that was an interesting kind of booth, seeing all the little fun things there. Nothing that really took me away except for like the Veloster N, but that was kind of geared towards people like us, I guess.
Yes. Yep.
What did we go?
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Was Mitsubishi at the show?
I was about to get to that because
Oh, you were? Okay.
I don't think they were.
Okay.
Last year I was there. They had a pretty decent sized booth last year, which was a big step up from what they were doing, which was like being shoved in the timeout corner. But I don't recall seeing Mitsubishi at all at the show, which was very odd. And the same goes for Volvo. I know they were there, but maybe I just didn't see them.
Maybe just passed over them.
Possibly. That second hall had Land Rover, which was interesting because they had the new Defenders, and that's such a cool looking rig, I guess we can call it. But it was interesting. They had, and I'm going to get this wrong probably. So the 4-door Defender is the Defender 110, is that right? I think, and then the Defender 90 is the other one. I'm probably wrong, but that's the
longer. Yeah.
I think, it goes off wheelbase. So like the 110 would be like the 4-door. So they had that one there that you can climb in and play with. So that was really cool. Those are very, very nice vehicles. But
it was a 90 and a 110.
Okay. Yep. The 90 was all roped off and you couldn't get near it. I think that one's still in a little bit of pre-production, but very, very, very cool looking. I dig the design. I mean, I like the old ones a lot. I think they look great, but this is just, a refresh.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
A refresh that needed to happen. So that was cool to see that. And then that second hall also has the majority of it's taken up by the gigantic Ford booth. Oh my goodness. So yes, Ford takes up quite a sizable footprint in that hall. And
yes, they do.
So the big reveal, or the big debut, I guess, of the auto show was what are we going to call this thing? The Ford, please don't call it a Mustang, Mach-E. They had a couple of them sitting there, and I don't think you were able to climb in them, but they had them out there, and seeing it in person is a little odd. And the thing about it is, I think the most controversial thing with it is that it's called a Mustang. Because it's really I don't even want to say it. I mean, it's an SUV, but if you remember, like the Toyota Venza, it's kind of similar to that size, where it's like it's not quite an SUV, it's not quite a little minivan, but it's something. Or like or even smaller would be like the Kia Rondo, like that kind of a thing. That's kind of the size of the thing. And looking at it in person, I think if you were to remove the Mustang emblem from the front, and I'm in no way, shape, or form a Mustang purist, but it's just like, it shouldn't be called the Mustang. Call it the Taurus. I mean, that's a fine name for it, I think.
Sure.
But
it is interesting because I understand why they did it, because this was one reason to get people super excited about something, or just not even excited, but just to like get the PR push from saying, hey, it's a Mustang, electric Mustang.
Right. Right.
I'm sure if they had called it anything else, if it was, like the eco SUV or whatever the hell, some other kind of new name, they wouldn't have gotten nearly as many people talking about it right off the bat.
That's true.
And it's like, I understand some people say, oh, it's going to dilute the Mustang brand, but there's a lot of things that have already diluted the Mustang brand, like, I know there's a lot of love for the Mustang too on places like Malaise Motors and places like that on Facebook, but I never thought it was a good car. They sold a fair amount of them. Maybe it was the right car at the right time, but I don't think it was I think it's probably the worst Mustang. I don't say I dislike it, but I feel like it's the worst Mustang. There's people that hate on the Fox bodies because they're just kind of creaky and really kind of not really well buttoned together. Some people might say that the Fox bodies kind of really brought the Mustang brand down. And I would say that I always forget the number after that, the SN
95.
95. I never liked those. I always thought that was like, this is the death of the Mustang, Mustang's never coming back after this. Right. So I don't know. I don't have too much of a problem with calling it a Mustang. I was very, very tempted to place an order for one of these things.
Okay.
I did not do it because I don't have enough money to do that. But it is I got excited about it because there was so much buzz around it, and I feel like it's probably going to be a much better built car than the Tesla Model Y or whatever it's Model Y, yeah.
Yeah.
And just the whole cult following around Elon Musk, I think that kind of turns me off. I think it turns some people off. And this is definitely, I think it was a good move by Ford. There's going to be some Mustang purists that are going to be like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Those people might not have been a customer anyway. I could see there being multiple Mustangs that are, that are different shapes and sizes that kind of like expand what you might think of Mustang to actually be defined as.
Right. Well,
I don't have a problem with the name, but I do think that, if you look at the base Mach-E, it's kind of homely. It doesn't look that good. The GT looks okay with the bigger wheels and everything, but the base one, it just kind of makes me think of like a 4-cylinder Fox body from from the 80s. It's like, oh yeah, that's a Mustang. That's another one that kind of brought the Mustang name down. Those 4-cylinders, those from the like 86, 87. Those are not really, There's been plenty of times when Ford has screwed up what the Mustang name stands for.
True.
So I don't think this is the worst Defender by any stretch.
Yeah, no,
So,
I guess I think you're right on it, and it's just the whole thing where it's just like, I mean, I'm not the biggest Mustang guy, but it just still kind of like rose me a little bit wrong way. But overall,
well, because as a car enthusiast, you're like, why are they calling an SUV a Mustang? That's blasphemous.
But in 4 years, we'll be over it, and that'll just be the way it is. But the one thing the nice things I do have to say about it is, I really like the way they did the taillights on that car. The Mach-E.
It's funny because I've seen a lot of people that didn't like the taillights, and I don't have a problem with them.
I think they look good.
I think it looks pretty good.
I think they look good. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, it was a good-looking car. The size of it is, like I said, it's about the size of a Toyota Venza. That was the first thing I thought of when I saw it in person, which isn't a bad thing. It's not like some big lumbering, like, because Model Y Teslas, I mean, those things are pretty big.
You mean the Model?
The Model X, Model X, whatever. Yeah, Model X. Those are pretty big. This is smaller than a Model X, but I mean, to go, I mean, this thing's pretty much production ready, and they kind of just debuted it, and like, here it is. So that was good on them for doing that, not pulling a Toyota spending 8 years to reveal the Supra, which I get to touch on here.
That's a different, that's a different naming story. I'm not going to defend Toyota on that one. So I mean, I'll defend Ford for the Mustang because they actually developed the car on their own. We don't. There's been plenty of talk about the Supra name. We don't need to rehash that. But,
Well,
but I'll definitely give Ford a pass.
So besides that, they had a bunch of trucks, SUVs, the Rangers. My dad was excited about the Rangers, and he got in it, got into it, and looked around, and he's like, "How much is this thing?" And I was like, "Oh, this one's $38,000." And he's like, "No." So that was kind of a little. I think he was a little disappointed because the last time we had went, it was when they debuted it, and he didn't get to sit in it. And he owns a Ranger. He's had a Ranger for almost 20 years. And it's been dead nuts reliable, and it's been a great little truck for him. But
I think that's the thing is that where do you get a compact truck anymore?
You don't.
Yeah. I actually was just driving. You probably saw some of my Instagram posts when I was back visiting my family. I was driving my dad's 2001 first gen Tacoma. So this was the second facelift that the Tacomas had. So I was driving this thing around, and it sort of took me back thinking about how this is what compact trucks should be like. It's not. It's pretty small. It's not that big. It's not trying to be anything other than a truck. You know, it's pretty Spartan on the inside. It's pretty rugged. And you can't just buy a simple truck anymore unless you get a Frontier, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I think maybe it's like $38,000 for a Ranger, especially considering that it's not really a new truck. You know, that platform's been around since 2010. Perhaps. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of hard pill to swallow, I think. I will say that the new Tacomas, if you want like a really fancy, like, Tacoma, like I can see maybe paying $38,000 for something that's all decked out.
Right.
That's kind of a different thing. Your dad's kind of looking for, I just need a 2-door, single cab, small basic truck. Yep. Where can I get one?
And Craigslist. That's pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty much.
Find an old Tacoma on Craigslist and pay way too much.
Exactly. So, yeah, the other thing was the Supra. We'll talk about that because I had a very interesting experience with it. I was like, I had to wait in a little bit of a line to sit in it, but I really, really wanted to see how it felt. And I mean, you've obviously seen me, but everybody who hasn't met me knows I'm a little pudgy. I'm not a huge dude, but I'm a little pudgy. I had the most difficult time getting in and out of that car. I smacked my head on the roof when I was getting in, and then getting out, I had to basically almost crunch up into a ball to get out of it. It was very interesting. I've never experienced that with a car before. Well, a Lotus Elise, but that's a Lotus Elise.
Sure.
So it was a very interesting experience. And the interior on it, it's so dark in there. You're like in a cave. Very high door sills and the doors, are very tall. You just feel like you're cocooned into it. So
sure. What's the visibility like? Did you happen to notice?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Like every new
pretty
car?
Bad.
Yes.
You can't really see over anything. But visibility. So that brings me to the other one that I actually kind of disliked when it first came out, but I sat in it and it's very comfortable, but the visibility sucks. And that was the new, or not new, I guess it's 2 years old now, the Mazda 3 hatch.
Oh yeah. I love those things.
So very good.
I love how they look.
They do look good. Now you can't see out of the back of them.
I know. You just look at the side of the car and you wonder why are there no windows on this
18
car?
square feet of sheet metal back there.
Of sheet metal, yeah.
It kind of makes you wish that they took a page from Daihatsu in the 1970s and put a little porthole window back there to help you increase visibility. So
I would love to find if there's some sort of study to determine. Obviously, we had an episode about car safety and how accidents have gone down and fatalities have gone down. But, because cars are safer, but cars are harder and harder and harder to see out of. And I don't understand why more people aren't talking about this. Like, I feel like when I drive my Prius, I feel like a worse driver than when I'm driving any of my cars from the 80s or 90s. I feel like I can't see. I don't know where there's a huge blind spot. I can't tell where the cars are. I can't see the front of the car. And I got to imagine that the lack of visibility due to adding safety, due to adding thicker pillars and more airbags, causes accidents because you can't see anything.
That's the thing is I think they want you to make sure you buy a higher trim level that has all of the lane departure warning and all the little sensors and doo-wops on it. So you can't see out of the car anymore, but now there's all these safety features that beep at you when somebody's so I guess that's like the whole takeaway with it.
Oh, you know what? In another episode idea, we got to talk about this too, because I've driven a bunch of new cars lately, and most of the time those safety things I end up turning off. Like obviously some of them you can't turn off, but sometimes the lane departure stuff doesn't really work very well, or the blind spot monitoring just constantly beeps at you, and you end up just I can't deal with this. I'm just going to turn this off. It's supposed to help you, but it's actually more of an annoyance. The I forget which car was it. Was it the Kia Soul or was it the Mitsubishi? I can't remember now. I'll have to go back and look at my video that I'm working on. But there's one where I ended up just turning it off because it was the Hyundai Santa Fe. So the blind spot monitoring, it's set up for driving very safely and very leisurely. So if you're in Los Angeles where there's your window of getting over into a lane is very small, you're not being an asshole by cutting somebody off, but this is just the way things work in Los Angeles. You just have to make quick moves. You can't dilly-dally. The window that Hyundai thinks I should have to be able to fit it basically says, "Oh no, you shouldn't go over yet. There's a car there." I'm like, "No, actually, I'm going to go over," and it just beeps at me.
Yeah.
So it's. I think there's a few things like that where there's not enough adjustability where I end up just turning it off. And then, like the lane keep stuff, like to keep you in your lane, it's kind of a convenience, but it doesn't work well enough to be able to use it all the time.
Right.
And, even sometimes the adaptive cruise control on some of these cars, like with my Prius, it's great because it goes all the way down to stopping and then it starts up again. And same with the Mitsubishi. But there was one time when I was driving the Kia Soul where you expect it to kind of like slow you all the way down to 0 and then start up again when the car in front of you moves. There was one time when I was driving the Kia where it just said, "Oh, can't detect the car in front of me." So it just turned off right as it was slowing down. So I had to slam my foot on the brake. So these are all these things that like are trying to help, but they're just not, I don't know. Car manufacturers are trying to sell these features, but they're not that great.
They're not, they need another few years to stew, I think, before like it can become, something that would be really viable. Like I'm thinking regional differences in like the programming, like you I almost said it for the Hyundai, but for the Hyundai where it knows, okay, there's enough room, you can go, just go, versus like, oh, there's a car there. No, this is the Southern California programming, versus the Midwest programming. So
exactly, and it's possible maybe if I had dug into the settings a little bit more, I might have been able to adjust that, but I don't think so. Right. Yeah. Anyway, I sort of derailed on this topic just because it's one of those things where manufacturers are trying to get people to buy into this stuff, and I don't know. I don't know if I remember I paid for the technology package on my Prius, and I regret it because there's a lot of stuff that I just don't use. I don't use the lane keep because it sucked. So yeah, it's just another rant, another Ethan rant. I'll go on a couple of those. I'll go on my Mustang Mach-E rant. I'll go on my safety features rant.
Well,
I'm all fired up. I've only had one beer too, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, there was really nothing else there that blew me away. Other than not really fitting in the Supra. My main takeaway is not fitting in the Supra very good. I want a M5 in Austin yellow, but I need $110,000, which I don't have.
Just wait a couple of years; it'll be 50. That's true.
Well, even then, I mean, come on. We're talking to a Daihatsu owner. And then, I mean, can't see out of the Mazda 3 hatch. Trucks are expensive, and the Ford Ranger, when you close the door handles like flex. So that's super high end luxury. I'm like, I closed the door on the damn thing, and I was like, oh, the door handle, like you can just kind of still keep pulling it.
Oh, weird.
That's how that was. So, but other than that, I mean, it was an okay show. The Mach-E, I like the taillights, and I think it's going to sell really well when it comes out, and I hope it does because that would be a good thing. So, more people get the electric cars to leave some of the other, gas powered cars for all of us weirdos. So,
yes, exactly.
So that was pretty much the auto show. I didn't go downstairs to the tuner area this time. I just kind of, last few years have been really like, oh, it's the same thing. So I kind of just skipped over that. And that was that. So cool. Auto show 2, I want to hear about this Turbo Grand Prix. What's going on with this thing?
Okay. Yeah. So
I saw some of the videos, or were they on your Instagram?
Oh, yes. So the Turbo Grand Prix. Yeah. So this is my 1990 Pontiac Turbo Grand Prix. They only made 3,000 of these things. Talked about it before on the show. It's got that stupid Teves brake system, ABS brake system that always fails on all of these vehicles. So basically what happened is I finally, after owning the car for a year and a half, I finally said, okay, I'm not going to get around to fixing this. So me and my friend Charles, we got the car over to the shop, and it's actually a shop that normally works on 50s and 60s cars. But as I mentioned, we couldn't find somebody that wants to work on this thing. So I ended up talking to the guy, and he was going to replace the brakes with a traditional electric boost.
Okay.
So got it over there. I figured, all right, this is going to be expensive. I only paid $1,000 for the car. maybe the car is worth $5,000 if for the right buyer.
Right.
So I figured, okay, I'm gonna dump some money into this car, even though it's a completely stupid financial decision. Who would spend twice what I paid for the car, to fix the brake? So I was looking to spend like $2,000 because that's like an electric boost system. It probably would have been even more than that because the labor to like all sorts of little stuff was probably going to pop up because we probably really needed to replace the brake lines too. There's a few things that kind of added up to a fair amount of money for this car that probably should just be pushed off the cliff. So I ended up doing that. I plunked down my Amazon credit card. I'm like, at least I'm going to get Amazon points for this. So I put that down, drive home. I drive the thing home because he was really booked. So he wasn't going to be able to work on the car for like 2 or 3 months.
Oh,
so,
wow. Okay.
So I brought it back home and then a couple of days went by and I figured, you know what? I'll just move the car. I'll drive it around the block a little bit. It's just kind of nice to kind of drive the car every once in a while because it had been sitting for months and months. So, turn it on, backed it out of the driveway, and I looked at the dash and the brake light wasn't on anymore. I'm like, huh.
What the?
And started it up, backed it out of the driveway, and all of a sudden, I pressed down on the brake pedal. Normally, when you have to press down on the brake pedal, you have to press with all your might. It's kind of like driving a car with manual brakes because there's no boost. So this time, when I stepped on the brake, I was like, oh, it actually kind of feels like a normal brake pedal. What is going on here? And instead of the brake light being on, the ABS light, it's still flashing, but it's flashing instead of just fully illuminated. And I press on the brake pedal and I can hear the pump working now because this system has a pump and an accumulator ball, which I guess stores the pressure. It's just this weird system. So, and I started backing out of the driveway. I'm like, the brakes are working.
What the heck?
So after owning this car for like a year and a half and like every other time I drove it, like you just having to like really jam on this brake pedal to actually like get the thing to stop. This time it's like, it actually sort of feels like the brakes are working normally. It's definitely not as good as a new car or any of my other vehicles. There's still something a little bit wrong with it, but it's actually doing something. And I don't know what happened. It's I don't know. It's very odd. The only other thing I could think of is that I've driven the car so rarely. And I've just been driving it a whole lot over the last, getting it back to the shop and back from the shop and driving around the block a few times. Just driving it fixed something.
Maybe.
So, so it kind of works.
Okay.
And I wish I would have had time to film this, but I was heading out to visit my family for a couple of weeks. So I wasn't actually able to do a video on it. But so there's a very strong possibility that I might be able to get this car out to the Radwood Socal this weekend.
Nice.
So the downside is the car looks terrible because the car had sat out for a year and a half. The paint is kind of fading a little bit. And, I guess, and I'm not a good car detailer, but, if I could try to wax a thing or, try to buff out the paint, I don't know if I have enough time to do that in, like a day.
Right.
Because, the shows and,
well,
day and a half.
Well,
you
got two things going for you on it when it comes to that. One, it's supposed to be raining at Radwood, so
that's true.
That eliminates the need for a nice buff and polish.
Yeah, I just basically you just use the rain to kind of polish.
Yeah, it's fine. It's all good.
All cars look good when it's
exactly
it's wet, when they're wet.
Because that's kind of what's going to be happening with the Daihatsu. It's going to look great because it's raining, so.
Okay. So what the heck went on with this? So you've been talking, and if people have been listening to this podcast for a while, you've been talking about this hood
damn
for
hood.
weeks.
So,
maybe months.
Actually since last year, but,
so what happened? You're painting the hood and then did some bugs fly into it or something?
Explosions happened. No, not really. So no, I got the color match spray paint, which I had put into the cans because I couldn't get a compressor that was big enough to power it. Yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
So anyways, so lay down the primer on it. Everything's looking great. It was actually really cold outside, but it had just rained and it was in the evening because that's the only time I had to do this. So it actually kind of worked out to my advantage because I just threw drop cloths out on my driveway, put it on the sawhorses, and just went to town with the primer. So that got done. wet sanded it. Everything looked really good. I was like, cool. So the next night I go out and lay down one of the 2 cans of the color matched spray paint onto it. And again, it was the same sort of weather where it was like had just rained and no bugs were flying around and there was minimal dust. So I just shot it outside, whatever. Right. So came out pretty damn good actually. And so it was sitting in my garage drying and then, couple days, a day or 2 goes by and I'm like, okay, I got time to put down that other coat and then I'm going to put the clear coat on it and then boom, we're done. It's going to be great. And hallelujah, I'll have a hood that actually looks somewhat decent. So
sure.
Before I bring the hood out from the garage where it was just sitting drying, I was like, oh, I need to clean it off because it had dust on it. And in probably one of my most epic brain farts of my life to thus far, I went ahead and grabbed my acetone to wipe it down.
Oh no.
I'm going to stop right there because I'll just keep getting pissed off.
Okay.
So yeah, you know what? No, actually, I'm sorry. I was going to clear it. I had actually used up all the paint on it. So it was all fully painted. And
yes,
I went to clean it off to put the clear down. And that's when I grabbed my acetone and I like wiped it down and like on just one side. And I was like, huh. It's like, oh shit. Oh no. Now, this wouldn't have been a problem if I just a quick story. I just started a new job and I just happened to start like this past week. So I didn't have time to go back down to the paint shop and have them fill up the spray cans with more spray paint. And
sure.
Yeah. So as it stands right now, that hood that I painted, I got very upset at myself over, and it is back in my shed. So
okay,
I think
does it look worse than it did when you started?
It does not look worse than it did last year. However, it's a pretty easy fix. I just need to get more paint mix and then I can spray it again and it'll be fine, but I don't have time to do that before the show. So that means that the Daihatsu will be traveling to Radwood with its world famous, I guess we'll say world famous, gold hood this year.
Okay. Yes.
And I'm happy it's raining because, it's just going to be it's just going to be there. So it'll be there. You can see it. It'll have a gold hood. If it's not raining.
Okay. So you are bringing it. I wasn't sure if you were going to like say, oh, I can't be, the Daihatsu can't be seen with a gold hood.
It's a Daihatsu. I mean, I can confirm that I am pretty sure I will be the only charade there. After we talked about that the other week, I did get some confirmation. So I'm pretty sure I will be the only charade there. But it will have a gold hood, but whatever. Funny story. So don't let me paint stuff. Well, I mean, you can let me paint stuff, but just don't let me near acetone. I guess that's the takeaway. So that's what happened. I'm pretty pissed.
Throw that acetone away. Get that away from your homemade paint booth.
Yes, exactly. So yeah. So I'll get it done and get the hood on probably in the next couple weeks when I have some time. But for right now, it's okay.
Gone. So you're gonna bring. That's good. You're gonna bring the Daihatsu. I wasn't sure because when you emailed me, it sounded like you were so despondent you didn't even want to bring the car.
No. It'll still come. I mean, it's
okay.
It's got to. So
yeah, exactly.
But yeah. So that was the big thing with that. So a win for you. You've got the brakes working. ? With the Turbo Grand Prix, and I've got a gold hood, so I think they'll look great parked right next to each other, Ethan. Where it's just going to be raining on them, and it's like, don't look at Ethan's paint, don't look at Paul's gold hood, and
yes, exactly.
And there we go.
Well, that the kind of the bummer about it being raining at Radwood Socal is that the interior of the Turbo Grand Prix is really kind of like the star of the show. I mean, the car looks pretty cool. But you kind of have to look at the steering wheel and those kind of ridiculously overstuffed seats. There's just a lot of cool stuff going on in this car. It would be a little bit of a bummer to not be able to have the windows rolled down. But and I'm also a little concerned about safety. When I was driving this car before, it was very, very difficult to stop. And who knows? I've only driven the car 30 miles in the last couple weeks, so getting it all the way down to the show. I mean, because this is in Orange County, so it's a little bit of a drive from where I live. So it's a little risky, but I don't know. It might be worth it. Also, the tags are expired.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there's that.
That's part of the fun. I mean, that's the thing with the charade too. Is I usually only take the charade around little jaunts around the town, but it's like, when it comes time to drive somewhere far, it's like, okay, this is part of the adventure, right?
Exactly.
Why did Ethan and Paul not make it to Radwood? Well,
their cars exploded.
So,
So I'm not sure. There's a couple other opportunities for I've got a couple other things in the garage. Obviously, I could take my 88 Chevy Nova twin cam down there. A few people have wanted me to do that, and that car will make it no problem. Obviously, it's super reliable. And then Brad dropped off the 86 Porsche 944 Turbo that we co-own together. I don't know why I co-own a vehicle with somebody that lives in Reno, but I do. But he brought that down here. Unfortunately, there is a hole in the brake rotor.
Speed hole, it's fine.
Speed hole. It's just cooling.
Brake cooling.
Yes, it's not a cross-drilled rotor. There's actually a big gigantic hole in the rotor. It still stops mostly. Apparently, we'll have to have Brad on the podcast to recount the story.
Yes.
But when he was bringing the car down from Reno, a whole lot of loud, catastrophic noises came from the rear of this car.
Oh, okay.
And as he was driving, he would kind of buck and shimmy and there was, when he stopped a few times, apparently there was a couple times where he couldn't get the car going because essentially what happened is the parking brake drum that's inside the rotor. He's thinking that maybe the spring broke and it allowed the drum to kind of expand and press against the rotor, essentially trying to stop the vehicle.
Oh.
But at weird times, it would bounce up and down against the rotor, or when he was parked, it would get stuck. So he'd have to back up and then go forward and really hard. And so currently there's no parking brake because what happened eventually within the last 100 miles of his trip down here, I think all the pieces just kind of exploded out of the rotor. That's why there's a hole in the rotor. So there's no all the drum, the spring. He's just assuming that it's all gone. So I have to take a look and see what's in there.
Okay.
He was also saying that the rear brake rotors are 86 specific, so they're super expensive.
Oh.
So his guesstimate is that the rotor is $200, which is crazy because the rotors that I got for my Nova were $2. So I mean they were 12, but seriously that is nothing compared to a 944 turbo.
Okay.
So there's a possibility I could take that to Radwood Socal. The car is fantastic to drive. I drove it today for a half an hour just because once he brought it here, I was I got to drive this thing because it's so much fun. But I don't know. A 944 Turbo is a cool car. It's just maybe not that special at Radwood. There's going to be other 944s there. There's going to be other cars that, I don't know. I sort of really enjoy the cars that people have forgotten. The cars that
I do too.
That people get excited about seeing because they haven't seen one in 20 years.
I think this is the Grand Prix Turbo's time to shine, Ethan. I think it really do. And it's an adventure.
Well, it won't shine literally because the paint's all dull, but I will bring it down there to show off the one of 3,000
there you
or whatever.
Go.
I should probably put a McLaren badge on it just to be one of those guys. I've seen a few Pontiac Turbo Grand Prix with McLaren badges on it because of the distant McLaren relationship.
I wonder how much a McLaren badge costs. It's
more than I paid for the
cheap.
Grand Prix.
And it's probably the very, it's a very basic badge, right? It's just a little rectangle and it says McLaren in it. So, but I'm sure it's expensive. So
yeah, but it's really in reality, it's a different McLaren than the McLaren that everybody knows. So, but it's still connected, 30, 40 years ago, there's a connection there, but yeah.
Awesome.
Watch my video to find out more at youtube.com/HelloRoad. But anyway, I will try to make another video with this vehicle, especially if I get it down to Radwood, I'll be filming that whole time.
Okay.
So I think I got to bring the Turbo Grand Prix. I think that's the move. I'm not sure if it's going to be a bad idea or not. The Turbo it kind of cuts out at something's going on when you Actually, when I shift it manually, if I shift the car in, just actually like, it's got a 4-speed automatic. If I actually just manually shift through the gears, it kind of is fine. So there's probably something going on with the transmission. When I actually just let the automatic transmission shift on its own, it seems like it's maybe not going into first gear or something. This car has more issues than I probably even know, and I'm so glad that I didn't spend $2,000 to fix the brakes because even when it's sitting, if it's just kind of like idling and I try to rev the engine, it cuts out at 3,000. But it's weird that it doesn't do that when I'm driving it.
Okay.
So
yeah,
maybe some sort of weird vacuum thing. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
apparently this vehicle has a lot of vacuum lines that are really hard to diagnose. So
sweet.
Yeah, I know. Great. That's why I'll just take the Nova because I know it'll get there.
It'll be an adventure though. Well, you have got to do the Google Maps to see how many miles it is to see if AAA can get you on that 100-mile tow.
Sure. So where is the show this weekend?
Oak Canyon Park. It's down
Silverado, California, which I don't even know where that is. Where is
it's
Silverado,
kind of
California?
By it's by Irvine, north Tustin. Yeah, I would say more Tustin, more east Tustin, northeast corner of Irvine is where we're looking. And I don't know if I mentioned on the show, but I have a buddy who's really big into mountain biking, and he goes there all the time because it's a great place to go mountain biking, I guess. But he said that I remember him saying months ago, he's like, if it rains, you guys are going to all be screwed because it's going to be a big mud pit. So.
Oh, geez, it's going to be kind of like Radwood Sonoma the last
Good thing
time.
the Daihatsu's got rally heritage.
Yes. My Turbo Grand Prix does not have that.
So it should.
Yes. So throw some mutters on your.
It should be a ton of fun. I'm looking to see if I can see a Google Street View of this, or not Street View, aerial shot of this thing.
I've seen other. I mean, they do other car shows there. It is almost 70 miles from my house, and I have AAA Plus, which I think gives me 70 100 miles. I think
it's 100.
It's 100. Oh yeah, you're right.
So,
okay, cool, done deal. Take the Turbo Grand Prix. And I don't know. I'm kind of scared.
Yeah.
I'll try to take the Turbo Grand Prix. I do know that I could take the Nova and have no problems, and it would be fun to drive. And if I take the Turbo Grand Prix, I'll probably have problems, and it won't be as fun to drive. But I will venture to guess there has not been a Turbo Grand Prix at any Radwood yet.
Yeah. I'd have to agree with you on that one.
Mostly because most of them don't run.
Right. Most of them didn't have their brakes magically start working again. So
yeah, they just stopped working and they completely failed. But yeah, I don't know. These brakes, I'd say they're operating at 62% capacity.
Okay, that's good.
I can my accurate guesstimate.
62%. Okay. Well, I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, it's kind of passing depending on the curve.
Sure.
I mean,
yes, exactly.
Kind of passing.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm really excited about the show. I'm always excited to go to Radwood.
Yep.
80s and 90s cars are my jam, and I definitely did I just say my jam? I would like to retract that statement. I think it's the second Coors Light that's kicking in. So and that's not something I would normally say. I just want to put that on the record.
It's okay, Ethan. It's okay. Tap the Rockies.
And exactly. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun show. I was talking to Brad. I think there might be, I think 400 cars signed up. There might, usually day of, there's more that show up. So it's going to be a big show. It seems like it's going to be a nice venue. I think the rain, it's fine. Just find a Rad Era umbrella.
Yes.
I will say the only Radwood show that really did get a damper on it was probably Sonoma because it was raining and it was just about freezing.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll get that here in Southern California.
Yeah, it's going to be chilly, but it's not going to be freezing. So,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's this Saturday. And it's the rain is in the forecast, and my Rad outfit is not really a rain outfit, but maybe I'll work it in somehow. We'll see. It should be fun. It doesn't involve umbrellas or windbreakers. Although I could wear my Daihatsu jacket, but I wore that last year.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to kind of dock you any points for wearing the same
They
outfit.
might. They might. Oh, Paul's wearing the same Daihatsu jacket. I'm looking at the picture of Oak Canyon Park right here. It looks pretty cool. It looks like it's like way kind of tucked in there. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be rally car time. So that should be fun.
Yes.
So, that's this Saturday, and I can't really think of anything else besides that we'll be there, and it's going to be a ton of fun. And next time we're talking to you, it'll be after the show, and we can talk about how we all had Woodstock 99, or what was it, 94, when they were throwing all the mud at everybody? 94. 99 was the fires, 94 was the mud. That's right. So it's gonna be very similar to that. We're just gonna be throwing mud at everything.
Yes.
Not us, but that's just the way it'll be. So cool.
All right. Sweet. Well, I'm looking forward to that. We'll hopefully we can make it. You got your gold hood. I got my broken vehicles that I'm gonna take down there. It's a good time. Yeah, and hopefully it doesn't rain too much. Because I don't, I want to make a video about the show, but I don't really have good. I don't have a rain camera gear.
Right. Right. Okay. Well,
so if it rains too much, the video stuff might suffer. We'll have to see.
Yeah. But, well, we'll see. I'm sure that it'll be well documented in other ways, shapes, and forms. Meaning our phone cameras. So
exactly. Yeah. Well, the next episode will be us talking about all the cool stuff that we saw. So
and the adventures getting down there and back.
Exactly. I'm sure there'll be something to talk about in that regard.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's it for this episode. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the old magic interwebs?
The magic interwebs. You can find me at Paul's Finest Hour on both Instagram and Twitter. And that's it.
That's it. Yep. All right.
That's all I got.
Yep. You can find me on youtube.com/HelloRoad. A recent video is of my Chevy Nova Twin Cam. I made a new video about that car and why I love it so much. I'm working on a video about the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross. That one's taken a long time, mainly just because I honestly wasn't super excited about the vehicle. So I haven't been super motivated to finish that video. But that's the video where I take it to the Pinball Museum. So that's going to hopefully be ready next week.
Nice.
And then I shot a video with my dad's 2001 Toyota Tacoma, and I shot it in this cornfield in Massachusetts, and it started snowing at the end of the video, so it's kind of fun. And I drove it on these silly little back roads. It was a lot of fun. So that's going to be up maybe in a couple weeks. So anyway, you can find me there, and then Instagram at Twitter at Mr. Ethan Tufts. So that's what's going on with me.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Well, thank you, everybody. Have a good night or good morning or good afternoon whenever you're listening.
Yes, whenever you're listening. Have a good time. All right. Bye, everybody.